Hello, everyone. My name is Matt Arant. I'm the founder of Arant Academic Planning, and this is a piece in the series we're doing on virtual information session. So, throughout the summer, just to kind of date this program, I've invited admission representatives from a wide variety of colleges and universities by school type, size, and location, and they'll just kind of share with us the things that make their colleges and universities unique, from academics to location, as well as wrapping things up with the admissions and financial aid process. So for tonight's presentation, I'm joined by the U.S. Coast Guard Academy.
All right. Thank you very much. So my name is Lieutenant Susie Dannessa. I am the Southeast Admissions Officer for the Coast Guard Academy. So I essentially cover a fifth of the country in terms of who your point of contact is. So, for example, being from Texas, that would be one of the states in my territories. Um, so. With the Coast Guard Academy, we are one of the five federal service academies. So Federal Service Academy essentially being the Air Force Academy, the Naval Academy, West Point, the Merchant Marine Academy, and then the Coast Guard Academy. So the Coast Guard Academy is one of the two smaller of the service academies. We are comparable in size to the Merchant Marine Academy. We are one of the two D3 service academies, and then the other three being Division One, a little bit larger. So those being the Naval Academy, the Air Force Academy, and West Point. Those falling under Department of Defense or Department of War, DoD, DoW. We are the academy that falls under the Department of Homeland Security. So the Coast Guard Academy, we're located in New London, Connecticut, on the Thames River. That's what you can see in this first picture. Our campus is about 100 acres, so small but mighty. And essentially, this is the full campus of what you're seeing on this first slide. Now, a little bit about the Coast Guard, because at the end of the day, being a service academy, there is a service commitment, and being the Coast Guard Academy, the service commitment will be serving in the United States Coast Guard for 5 years upon graduation. So a little bit about the United States Coast Guard as a branch of service. We are a multi-mission military service, but what makes us a little bit different because we fall under the Department of Homeland Security is our unique mission set. So, a little bit different than the mission sets of your Department of Defense and thus those service academies. We have a very humanitarian focus with the mission set that we have. We also have a unique law enforcement capabilities as well, maritime law, such as that. So that being said, with the Coast Guard, some of the things that we are doing on a typical day is going to include, and this being the bread and butter of our service, is one, search and rescue. So conducting what we call SAR cases, ensuring that disabled vessels, distressed vessels are being assisted. We are ensuring that our waterways are both safe and navigable, not only that they're maintained, but also the vessels and the commercial vessels that are on those waters every day. So with that, we are ensuring that the transit of those commercial vessels are safe. We seize on an average day millions of dollars worth of illicit drugs, so counter narcotic missions, that, like I said, those unique maritime law enforcement mission sets is the better bread and butter of the service, and then also the search and rescue aspect as well. So how does that essentially matter to the academy? Well, like I said, being the service academy for the Coast Guard, this is something that you're going to be essentially doing as part of your service commitment upon graduation from the academy. So the Academy with founded in 1876, once again, we are here to prepare future leaders for the Coast Guard and thus our nation. At the end of the day, any service academy is college with a purpose. Every service academy does have a service commitment upon graduation. Um, because also part of that is not only to graduate leaders to serve in our armed forces, but we also are all tuition free. So essentially, you are serving and paying for your 4-year education with your time, right? So the Coast Guard Academy itself, so honor, respect, and devotion to duty, these are the core values of the Coast Guard and of the Academy. Each year we start with class sizes of about mid 200s, so that's what we bring in per class size. And then we will typically graduate, usually about 200, a little over 200, um, as seniors will then commission into the Coast Guard as Coast Guard ensigns. So our Corps of Cadets, we are a little bit over 1,000. Typically, like I said, we will bring in about a class size of about mid 200s. So we are a highly selective institution. We hover about a 12 to 15% acceptance rate. I'm going to go a little bit into the metrics and what we look um, for a competitive applicant. And then for a lot of kind of what I talk about with being a competitive applicant, being highly selective, this is going to apply to all 5 service academies. We are all very highly selective. Um, so, like I said, with us, our total Corps of Cadets is just over 1,000 typically. We do get pretty close to 50 states, and having people come from 50 states. We also have an international program, so we'll have anywhere between 6 and 12 students from nations that we work with and they can apply as and being a part of the Corps of Cadets as well. And then they will go back and serve in their respective countries. Couple of measures you're going to see here. So, um, going back to what we're sort of looking for being a highly selective institution. There are some metrics up there. Those are actually have risen a little bit. So average high school GPA that we're looking for the last 2 years, that average has been a 3.85 unweighted. And then we also we have to have required set of test scores. I'm going to go through this in a bit with what we look for a competitive applicant. Okay. Um, so with that being said, we are a pretty rigorous institution in terms of academics. And we also are a STEM focused institution. So we offer 10 degrees that you could study. With the Coast Guard Academy, typically you will come in as a major the major that you choose is the one that you will be studying. So we do say that it's important to look at these majors online and make a decision of what you're interested in. We will ask you on the application for your first and second major decision, but we do take this into account when we are shaping the class. So that is something to be taken seriously. You can change majors when you come in. It's not that you can't, but like I said, we do consider what people select for their major choice. So like I said, being STEM focused, everyone will earn a bachelor's of science, regardless of what your major is. Majors that we offer. So for the engineering disciplines, we offer civil engineering, mechanical engineering, um, naval architecture and marine engineering, which is very cool because we are one of the very few institutions in the country that offer this. So whether it's naval engineering or marine engineering, like I said, those programs, whether they're one or both of those together, very few offerings in the country of this major discipline. Um, the other engineering disciplines are going to be electrical engineering. Cyber systems is also an engineering discipline. Um, and then our newest major being interdisciplinary engineering. Essentially, it's an opportunity to um, learn and take classes across multiple different engineering disciplines. So you kind of get introduced to multiple different focuses. So there's going to be some mechanical, some electrical, some civil focus and with your interdisciplinary. Your other options that we offer. So management and government being our two non-STEM majors. Government is like your poli sci, and then management being like your business finance degree. And then we have our life sciences major option being marine and environmental sciences. So this you can think chemistry, biology, um, potentially medical track. We are working on increasing more opportunities for the medical track. For those who have that interest, MES is going to be the best choice for that. And then our math major is operations research and data analytics. Um, One thing that I will say is while I am going through what we look for as a competitive applicant. Um, I mentioned that everyone will graduate with a bachelor's of science, including that those non-STEM majors being government and management. And that is because everyone takes the same course load, their fourth class, or what we call it, their freshman year. So freshman, fourth class cadets, sorry. Third class cadets would be sophomores, second class cadets being juniors, and then first class cadets being seniors. So everyone will take the same courses that fourth class year, which is going to include chemistry, physics, and calc, regardless of your major. So with that being said, this is the slide I'm gonna really talk about what makes a competitive application for us. So I did mention being highly selective. Our acceptance rates for direct appointment has always been somewhere between 12 and 15%. Like I said, we typically bring in class sizes of about mid 200s. That will also include the 50 to 70 spots of prep school. So every service academy, an option could be an appointment to prep school. Basically, it's like a 5-year opportunity where it's not a separate application, but we may consider you for a prep school opportunity where you would go to one of our affiliated prep schools for a year, and then pending that you completed the requirements in terms of academics and control things like that, you would matriculate into the next class. So that's also pretty selective program. That's between 50 and 70. Um, About 50 and 70 people will be selected a year for that, and then they will matriculate into that incoming class. So, for example, this year we're bringing in 268 students. 50 of those would be prep school, people who were coming from our prep school. So, about a little over 200 appointments is what we offered for people applying to the academy for class of 2030. So that being said, first and foremost, is going to be the academics. So, these three categories, academics, leaderships, extracurricular, fitness component, these are things that you need to have in order to really be competitive for us. So, for the academic side, we need to ensure that you are academically prepared. Coming to any service academy, it's not just going to be taking, just college, but you're going to have a lot of other structured activities. So we also need to ensure that you can um, pass the courses as well. So what we're looking for in high school, we're looking for chemistry, physics, calculus. Pre-calc will keep you in the game, especially that now that there's an AP pre-calc option, but calc preferred. To be the most competitive, this is going to be at an an honors AP plus level, maintaining a B plus average in those three courses. So those are the primary target courses that we look at for an applicant. Um, so you want to be on target to either be enrolled in or to have completed by your senior year, or you may be doing a year of college and then applying or potentially reapplying. So our age of eligibility to apply to the academy is 17 to 22. So you have a few years. Some people do have to reapply. Some people may need to do a year of college. But once again, it's chemistry, physics, and calc at that AP plus level with a B average is what that target is. GPA, we look at the unweighted GPA. That average of the last two incoming classes was a 3.85. And then we also we are not test optional. So we accept ACT or SAT. You need to at least submit one complete test scores, specifically without accommodations. But we do super score, so you can take it as many times as you'd like. Start taking it early, start taking it often. Those averages of a direct to point, the last 2 years. The average SAT for a direct appointment has been a little under 1,300. So we look at the that math and verbal breakdown, mid 600s, specifically 690 is our average of each of those breakdowns. So you want to at least aim to be in the 600s of each of those categories to hit our average. Like I said, it is an average though. And then for ACT, about a 28 to 30 is usually around where our average is for a direct appointment. Um, so we have the academic part, but that's not all. That's if you're strong in academics, but you don't have really anything else going on in the leadership or extracurricular side, or that or athletically or fitness wise, you're not just going to be admitted because you have a perfect SAT. But because if you have no other type of leadership or extracurricular involvement, community service, then that's also not going to be the right applicant for us either. Um, so that next part, at the end of the day, we're looking for people with propensity to serve, people who are going to be wanting to serve their community, serving in the military. So we also want to look for that leadership potential of what you've done in high school. So various leadership roles can look, there's so many different options for this. Student government, athletic leadership, being a team captain, boys state, girls state, various JRT, ROTC opportunities. How are you involved in your community, volunteer service, scouting, Girl Scout. There's a lot of, student government. There's so many different options. So this is really where you can diversify and really kind of set yourself apart as an applicant. The other thing, is employment. We look at that potentially. Maybe you were a shift manager. Employment is also another way to demonstrate leadership and leadership potential and community service. So definitely you kind of have to have that academic component, you need to have that leadership component. And then that third thing is going to be, I call this the fitness part. So at the end of the day, you don't necessarily have to be an athlete, but you do have to pass our fitness standards. So every service academy has you take fitness tests. You take a fitness test as part of your application, and then you continually take that fitness test. Not even or once you graduate, but then also you continue in the service. Um, for for our fitness tests, it is part of the important thing about a service academy is that in order to graduate, you have to be commissionable because you're commissioning as an officer. Part of that is passing regular fitness tests. So if you're not commissionable, then that you can't essentially be at the school. So there is a fitness component, and that's also why it's part of our application because we want to ensure that people can do that and be on track and to be passing that and to not struggle with that throughout their 4 years. The other part of that as well is the athletic side. Um, if you're ability to impact CGA through sports is also another great way. So we do athletic recruitment as well. If you're interested in pursuing the sports that we offer on our athletic page, you can go to our site there, click recruit me, fill out the information for your sport, and that's how you can get in touch with a coach. So kind of generally what the application is going to consist of. It is unique to CGA, so we don't do Common App or anything like that. What it's essentially going to consist of is after the basic information input, we'll have personal essays. Typically, so we have two required and then a third optional. One thing I will recommend is anything that is optional for us is kind of like a missed opportunity. So you really don't want to treat something as optional. So we have a third essay optional and then another optional upload where you can upload a resume or something like that. So really recommend taking advantage of that. We need to have that at least that one set of test scores. I did mention that we do super score. So SAT, ACT, take both, take all, take one. Take it early, take it often. Um, the other thing is high school transcript, and then if you are in college, we'll also want to see those college transcripts as well. Um, the other part of this is going to be our physical fitness examination, so what we call the PFE. Please keep in mind, if you are also looking at other service academies, every other service academy uses a CFA, the Candidate Fitness Assessment. That's not the same thing as our physical fitness examination, so it's a different test, different scoring, so you cannot use that CFA score on our application. The required letters of recommendation is going to be from your high school counselor, a math instructor, and an English instructor. For math and English, it can either be science or humanity. So sometimes people may ask me like, "Oh, my physics teacher would be, you know, can maybe speak on my abilities better or whatnot." That's fine. Same thing for English, government, humanities, social studies, that's acceptable as well. The other two things, we are the only service academy that does not require congressional nomination. So we are just not a part of that process. So that's just not something that you're going to apply for if you intend to apply for the Coast Guard Academy. And then the last thing is everyone applying to a service academy has to be medically qualified in order to be eligible to be offered a full appointment. This is through an entity called Department of Defense Medical Exam Review Board. Like I said, if you're applying to all the service academies, you're applying to just us, you're going to go through this medical process. This is essentially a parallel process. You have the application for the academy, and then the way we start your medical processes, you have to finish so much of the application, and then we send your information to Domberg to start the medical process. If you're applying to other service academies at the same time, you may be starting this medical process earlier. All the academies initiate them at different times. You don't have to redo anything with the medical. Basically, we all work through this one medical system. But essentially, you have to be medically qualified in order to come to the academy. And then lastly, just some critical dates to keep in mind. We do one class cycle application at a time. So for example, the next class of 2031, applications are going to open in mid-July. We always open the class application in July. So you can't apply yet for 2031. Like I said, it'll be July when that opens. Two opportunities of when you could submit that application or when it would be due. So we have an early action cycle and a regular admission cycle. So with early action, that deadline is October 15th. If you submit an application by then and want to be considered for early action, you will hear a decision from us by December 23rd. If you want to apply with regular admission, that is a deadline of January 15th, and you will hear a decision from us by April 1st. The medical process that I mentioned, they have different deadlines. That is later. So, you're part of that process, you have to do two medical exams. Those are due by April 1st. You have to have those completed. And then May 1st is when we typically you need to have essentially your entire medical process completed. For us, regardless of if you accepted an appointment, if it's in early action or regular, you have till May 1st for us uh, to decide if you'd like to accept the appointment. Um, and then typically you're going to be reporting to us. So we call our introductory period or like our boot camp swab summer. That's an 8 week period. That's going to be your first summer at the academy. That's going to be June 29th. So typically it's the last was it the last Monday of the month, but it's somewhere it's last year is I believe is June 28th, this year it's June 29th. So around then is when you would report to the academy. So that is my presentation. Um, thank you very much. And um, if there's any questions, my contact info will be with Matthew. Thanks.
Thanks, Susie. I just have a couple of questions, if
Yeah,
that's okay. So
no,
you
for sure.
mentioned the the prep schools associated with the
Hmm.
academy, right? And how it kind of reminds me of like a wait list, kind of by another name, and the fact that there's something there, but they don't want to say no just yet, but there's a an alternative pathway, right? So I was thinking in that situation, what sort of coursework is taught at that prep school? Is it an approved, I guess, curriculum that's going to make them ready to jump right in with the other first year students, or how does that kind of look from like a, I guess, it's a very
Yeah.
specific kind of
Mhm.
curriculum having the highly STEM focused. Is that the
Yep.
case at the prep affiliated schools as well?
Yeah, so typically, so it's not, I wouldn't use the word waitlist because we also have a wait list. It
Okay.
is, so it is an appointment as well. It's basically the 5 year where let's say we are they may be missing one of those three courses. They
Hmm.
may the test scores may be of concern. They might have not. We are a lot of times when we're looking at a candidate, the first thing we're really looking for, really more than anything, is the math prep. Um, so um, let's say they may be the reality is with any of these prep schools, it's a lot of your recruited athletes. So
Hmm.
they
Yeah.
may there's some that miss him, but they're a recruited athlete or they great leadership or really strong. And when I say great leadership, it's a lot of competitive applicants. They've got to have some type of leadership component, but like we do have some that are, from an extracurricular perspective, a leadership, a community's perspective is really stands out. And then there just may be some concern on the academic side. So it's always for academics that um, is going to be the consideration of like prep school versus direct.
Hmm.
Um, and so with that, the primary focus is going to be they're going to be taking chem, physics, and calc. They're going to have um, academic standards that they have to make. They cannot fail those three courses. And then they also have to not get in trouble or anything like that. And so if they basically fulfill the academics requirements that we set in front of them, and good conduct, all of that, they can expect to matriculate in with that following class to the academy. The
Okay.
other thing with our prep school is for that year, it does count towards a year of service because they are enlisted for that 1 year. And so that's another thing that is also, fully the Coast Guard pays for them to be there, all of that. And then like I said, will matriculate in. Um, the other thing that people may do is if they aren't offered anything from us, They do this thing called self prep where the three prep schools that we work with right now is NAPS, so the Naval Academy Prep School, um, the Georgia Military College, and then UMass Amherst in Boston. And for example, at GMC, there are kids who they may not get in, and then they can enroll and they're the ones who are paying to go there and everything, and to try to kind of um, try to make themselves competitive for reapplication.
Okay. Yeah. And I guess my other questions kind of more related to kind of the campus life itself. So I'm
Mhm.
always thinking this in comparison to uh just other college universities where you have that ability to do things throughout the school year as well as the summer. I was wondering in
Mhm.
this case, since it is tied to, you said Department of Homeland Security, right?
Mhm.
Are there
Yep.
specific um, requirements on what these students are doing in the summers up until graduation, or is it
Oh
like
yeah.
other colleges in
Mhm.
which they have the time to do maybe internship or shadowing outside of the college, the academy itself? Does that make
Mhm.
sense?
Yep, yep. So summers are pretty busy for us. They do get some time to go home. They're not like
Hmm.
going home for a summer or anything
Yeah.
like that. So first summer is going to be essentially being at the academy and like kind of getting that transition from civilian to military and the academy. So that's the 8 week swab summer, and that's what we call
Hmm.
that. But basically that's I guess you can think of that as like that's like their boot camp part. So that's going to be their first summer when they report. And that's 8 weeks. And then they'll go into that first semester of course of classes there. Then that's when they're sophomores. So that third class summer is when they're going to start getting integrated into the fleet a little bit, learning more about the Coast Guard itself, and so they're going to go to various Coast Guard units. So it's going to include going to like small boat stations, um, possibly air stations. The focus there is on our enlisted side. So with the Coast Guard being a lot smaller than every other branch by like tenfold. So for example, um, Navy, it's like 500,000 active duty.
Yeah.
For the Coast Guard, to put in perspective, we're
Much
about
smaller.
40,000.
Yeah.
So with our enlisted side, they can that's a huge, part of our service. They hold similar positions to they can hold command. They're the ones who run stations. So these are like our rated forces, or our non-commissioned officers. And so as they're sophomores, they're going to go to these units to see how, basically to kind of start understanding like how the Coast Guard works, these mission sets. And then and then the other part of that too is going to be sailing on Eagle. So that's our training tall ship. Um, the Eagle, they'll be sailing on that as another part of their summer. And then they could also potentially be a part of our summer seminar program called AIM. So that is a program that juniors or rising seniors can apply to, and it's basically a summer program that we offered where they come in, they basically experience 1 week of that swap summer, and then those third class ones are the ones who are running that. I
Hmm.
mean, we run it too as admissions, but then they're like what we call the cadre, or like the drill instructors of that, and then your junior year is going to be navigation focused. They're going to go out on what we call coastal sail. So that's what they're out there right now. They're out with our faculty, essentially sailing, learning how to, navigate, being on like smaller vessels. So it's a very, navigation focused. And then the first class year, so the senior year, that's when some different internships can come into play. So they can do internships, Microsoft, Google, different government agencies, things like that. And then and this is going to be 12 weeks. So that could be 6 weeks of that internship, and then potentially then they're going to go 6 weeks to a Coast Guard unit. So that could be like going underway on a Coast Guard cutter, um, air station again, different like various Coast Guard units. So either they're pairing that with an internship, or they're doing 12 weeks at a Coast Guard unit. Um, and then they'll return back to school and then graduate in May. So,
Okay. And then
yeah.
one final thing you mentioned, I think there was one of those majors in which there was like a potential medical track. I was wondering, is there something in place for law? You always think of like the JAG Corps, I'm not sure
Yeah.
what, across different branches.
Mhm.
Do you have something similar to that, or the fact that the academy is much more STEM engineering focused? There's just
Mhm.
not the I guess the interest or the demand to meet that potential program.
So yeah, so we don't offer like a pre-law, but essentially the law option becomes at our graduate level. So
Okay.
basically around your um, for essentially promotability or whatnot, if you either want to stay in or about the lieutenant commander level, you're going to be going for a master's degree. And one of those options is doing it through the Coast Guard as well. So essentially, um, basically every year people can apply to be essentially picked up for a certain program. So we may say, if you want to be picked up for grad school, we have like 10 spots for mechanical engineers this year. We have 10 spots for people to go to law school. We have so many spots to go get your MBA. Essentially, what this is. If you're picked up for that from the Coast Guard, then you would apply to there's not there's pretty much every school in the country. I don't know what school isn't going to take you know guaranteed tuition essentially. And so then they have a payback tour because the Coast Guard will also pay for that graduate program. So for example, oh, here I have an example. One of the admission officers who's going to be joining us this summer, her husband was just a commanding officer on a vessel. He then was picked up to go to law school, and then he's going to be going to Yale
Okay.
for his law degree, and then after that his payback he'll pay back that in time, so essentially 2 to 1. So 2 years, if you're in a 2-year grad program, you'll do 4 years for the Coast Guard in whatever they got that in.
Okay.
Or for example, a friend of mine, he was picked up for mechanical engineering. He went to MIT for that, and then after he finished his degree, he's now an engineering officer on one of the cutters, for
Yeah.
example.
Okay.
So, yep, yep. Um, so basically, the law option is going to be at the graduate level, but it is an opportunity, and we do need and utilize lawyers within the Coast Guard.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
Sounds
Hmm.
good. Well,
Yeah.
thanks again for presenting on this. And I guess on behalf of myself and Lieutenant Dannessa, thank you for joining us this evening.
Thank you.